very long time. Especially I remember in 1992 when politics was hotter than what it is now. When we started YNK92, trying to help the president, sometimes we used to clash, then we agreed. He was a very humorous person. And on behalf of the Babusi community, I've spoken to most of them today, we really missed Mark. Mark was a friend of very many people. Mark had friends in Kisii and everywhere. Mary and Sophie, please, the only legacy you can do is to live with the wishes of Mark and look after Mark's children. God bless the family, and may Mark, our brother, stay in eternal peace. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sam. I'd now like to invite Ambassador Awori, who is the chairman of Toyota Kenya. We all know that London East Africa was associated with Toyota Kenya, and Mark Tol worked there.
Thank you, Caleb. God is good. The widows of Honorable Mark Tol, the children, relatives, friends, fellow mourners, on behalf of myself and all those that Mark used to work with in London, East Africa, I extend our deepest condolences. I worked with Mark for quite a long time. When he joined as deputy chairman, I was a sales and marketing manager with Toyota Kenya at the time. And throughout the time that we worked with Mark, I have never known a top corporate person to be as humble, as hardworking, and indeed as visionary as Mark. Since then, and throughout that time, all of us who are, let me say, indigenous Kenyans, looked to Mark as a mentor, as an advisor, and a supporter, and indeed, he gave us that support and mentorship. Mark was very humble. He would come from Lonro House as chairman down to what was then Lonro Motors and Toyota Kenya, and sit in my office and talk to me as if we were peers, as if we were equals. Mark also introduced to me and to the rest of us how the corporate world should really deal with politicians. He would bring them to talk to us. He would take us to talk to them. But one thing he always made sure is that the interests of the company always came first. From sales and marketing manager, I moved to Uganda. And Mark used to come in the Lonro plane to meet with President Museveni, and he would take me along. Mark was a very, very far-sighted person. In the workplace, he would always give us advice about changes that are going to come before they came, and indeed, they always did come. On the political front, he would also tell us what's going to be happening and how to adapt towards what's coming. An example was Mark coming through Kampala. We went to Lubumbashi to meet the elder Kabila. Before he took over, Mark already could see that Kabila was going to take over DRC. Mark, after Lonro, continued to be a friend to us all, continued to support us, and even now, Mark is one of my biggest fleet customers. But Mark, we shall really, truly, truly miss Mark. We shall regret that we did not take time to spend more time, talk more often with him as we should have done. His houses, his farms have always been open to us, and indeed we visited all of them. We will truly miss Honorable Mark too. And to the family, we say, please count on us to give whatever support that we can give. Thank
you. I've been informed that the national chairlady of Maendeleo ya Wanawake is with us. May she come and give her tribute. The national chairperson of Maendeleo ya Wanawake.
I greet church, God is good, and all the time. Kwa wamama wa Mato na watoto wake and all the dignitaries present, kwa niaba ya Maendeleo ya Wanawake, we served very closely with President Moi, and you know Zibora was our chair then. I was a provincial chair Eastern, and we worked very, very closely with the Kano people. So we have come here to control our women from Rift Valley and to say that we'll all go after you bury our brother Mark. Lakini wamama, Mungu yule tumeona mnamjua, mnamfahamu, ndio atakaa na nyinyi. And the children, it is the gift of love which is going to keep the family together. May the good Lord bless you and give our brother eternal peace. Thank you.
We should be giving more ladies to speak. We'll save on time. Thank you, Chair Lady Maendeleo ya Wanawake. I want to invite Mr. Kiprono Kitony, National Chairman of Kenya National Chamber of Commerce. And we have our final moments with Mark Cho we had when we were with Kiprono on the 27th of December. He called me, Mark Cho called me, and we had a long conversation, and he spoke to Kiprono, then he spoke to Belinda. I think we'll say more about that later.
Thank you very much, Caleb. On my own behalf, on behalf of my family, and indeed on behalf of the entire business community in Kenya, I would like to extend our very deep and sincere condolence to the widows and to the family and to the friends of Honorable Mark Cho. That Mark was a remarkable and exceptional person is not in doubt. And the contribution that he made in this country and indeed in the region will forever go in the history books of this country. I think in business, Mark Cho has proven a lot. He was the first person to start a private FM station in Kenya. He has many firsts in the business world. In politics, a lot has been said about what he did, and I cannot add to that. But his contribution was immense. Last year, I had the privilege of leading a delegation to Rwanda of business people, including Dr. James Mwangi. And after, in the middle of briefing President Kagame of who we were in the delegation and what we had gone for, he asked me about Mark Cho. And he said, please go and pass my greetings to my friend. So Mark Cho has proven very many things in the short life that he has led. In fact, when I think of his life, it reminds me sometimes of a Greek tragedy because he was a real master of melodrama. In his life, he lived very dramatically. You couldn't be in a place and share time with Mark and forget about it. Everything he did was dramatic, it was humorous, it was exceptional, and it was special. Every moment. On the 27th of December, sitting in the farm in Kitale and preparing to go and visit some relatives, out of the blues, Caleb, who hasn't visited me for almost 10 or 15 years, walks in and we sat down and have a chat. And within a minute, Mark Cho was on the line and we spoke with him at length. I spoke to him, Belinda spoke to him, my wife Rosemary spoke to him, and Mark spoke to Belinda about his desire to expand Eldoret into a city. And I think it was in his mind that the city would actually sit on his beautiful farm next to the airport. And he talked to Belinda about going to Cote d'Ivoire to negotiate with the Africa Development Bank on how to seek financing to expand that city. So this is a really special, exceptional man. I remember at the funeral of the late Comptroller Chepkwon, the late Michael Malwa described him as a man who had the uncanny ability of dining with kings and still maintain a common touch. I think those words would perfectly describe Mark Twain. In the times that we are in Kenya, I think as a nation, we have a big problem because the country is divided down the middle. And the political class is very quickly taking us to the abyss. They're taking us to the edge. And I think the greatest tribute, if you're a business person, that you could give to Mark is believing that anything is possible, because he proved that anything and everything was possible. And the greatest tribute our political class will give to Mark is by finding consensus between now and August. That, I'm sure, it would have been his greatest wish. With those few words, I'd like to wish my friend Mark Twain eternal peace. Rest in peace. You have made your mark in life. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruno. I would like to, we know that Mark Twain served as a member of parliament. We have a few of his colleagues who are here. I would like to start with Honorable Lagat, former MP for Eldoret East, to come and say a few words. He'll be followed by Honorable Koech, and I think we shall end there before we move to the other dignitaries. I will stand close by now because we're going to politicians and they can speak for too long.
Not today. To the family and all of us friends. Mark Twain was, last 3 months, very close to me. And I thought he was my very good friend, my closest friend, until I had everybody talk to him. That, in fact, he was a friend of everybody. He participated in all activities in Uasin Gishu. The last ones were church functions, where I said yesterday I casually invited him and he came, and he did a very good function. And he became a chief guest of honor from the Blues, and he told the priests, if not for anything else, I would want you to bury me when I leave this world. And those words were said on the 13th of November. Thereafter, with my friend Sudi, we attended another fundraising in Bodaland, and he said, if not for anything else, please remember me for building the churches. That's what he said. And truly, he was a man that we all truly liked. I don't want to say all the other stories. But the last one that he gave me a very long story, which I want to summarize, because he got into my car when the president came for the first time in North Rift. And he said, you can be anything in this world. And he told me that even before he became the chairman of London, he used to be a big man out there, but he didn't have anything. And he used to stay in first class. And one day, the church could drop him, I don't know where. And he got into, got a lift, or he got into a matatu, I can't remember the whole story. And he crossed the river on foot, and he fell on the river. And then he was telling me, imagine if that Muzungu that gave me his jet could see me walking, crossing the river on foot. You would think I'm a conman. So he had very many interesting stories. But for us in Uasin Gishu, he was a man who has built the churches. And when he came to Moiben, our church is very big. And he told me, I'm going to donate, I've given the church 5 acres. I'm going to give another 5 to build a basilica bigger than yours. And I don't know whether it's happened, but he said this church, and the money that it brought to us, he doubled it. And he told the priest, come and collect it tomorrow on Monday at 9 o'clock, and I'll give you transport, which he did. So I don't want to talk a lot about Mark Twain, because we will still have a chance for us who are traveling to Eldoret. But I want to tell you for sure that he touched all of us. I've never been as close to a politician as Makto. And he said, go and tell William that I want to bring all the rebels, including the opposition, to be part of the government. For free. He said, I'm going to do this for free using my own resources because I have my resources. Of course, I didn't have a chance to talk to William about that because it was just in December. So may God rest his soul in eternal peace.
Thank you. Honorable Koech is a former MP for Mosop, and until recently he was the CEO of the United Republican Party.
Thank you, Caleb. To the family, Mary, Sophie, children, relatives, leaders, and all of us, I stand here on behalf of my family to give you our deep felt condolences on the demise of a great man. I want to indicate here that the loss of Mark is a loss to the community, it's a loss to the society, it is a loss to Kenya, and it's a loss to Africa. So I bring our heartfelt condolences to all of us. Sophie is my neighbor, the parents are my neighbor in the village. Na ningependa kwa niaba ya watu wa Chepterwai, kwa niaba ya watu wa Kurkung Surungai, kusema kwamba wanaleta rambirambi zao and they feel and they are part of you. The late Mark also once stood contested for the Mosop seat, and even thereafter, after not even becoming a leader there, after moving to Uasin Gishu, he continued serving and helping our people in so many arambes, churches, school fees, and everything else. I want again, on behalf of the people of Mosop, to say we are very sorry for the loss of a great man. To all of us, we are saying Mark was a great, great man. I came to learn or to know him way back in the late 80s when I was a student in the university. He was the chairman of Kanu, Nandi, and one day I was told in school, please, you are needed by Mark in Sirikwa Hotel. Of course, that is a very, very big hotel then for us. I went, waited for him at the gate. When he entered, he told me, I want you to take lunch with me. And after taking lunch, he told me, I've been sent, I don't know by who, that we want you to be the member of Parliament Mosop. As naive as I was, I told him never and never, because I thought I would not join politics. Little did I know that 20 years down the line, I actually became the member of Parliament for Mosop. So I value him, and I remember him with a lot of nostalgia. We have lost a great man, as everybody else has said. A man who believed, and all of us knew him as a great friend to all of us. But I want to tell you, Mark was a friend to everybody. He had one simple terminology to use when greeting every Kalenjin. Yamune chorwenyu, chorwenyu, chorwenyu. In other words, my friend, whether young or big. But we want to say here that one thing that Mark stood for was peace. He was so concerned over the Somalia issues as if he was a Somali person. He was so concerned about South Sudan. He was so concerned about Rwanda then and Burundi. And he was more concerned about Kenya, our country. How I long and look forward to all our leaders today and tomorrow, that can we find space for Mark in our hearts so that we go into elections in peace, united as a country, because that is what Mark stood for, and that is what he believed in. He actually believed in servant leadership, where you offer yourself to serve the public, not for your own selfish interest, so that election should not be a do or die. It is offering yourself to serve. When Kenyans give you that opportunity, please serve the Kenyans as their servant. If they don't give you an opportunity, there is always another time. And as we are always reminded, God has a plan for all of us. May his soul rest in eternal peace.
Thank you very much. We have two family members who would like to say something about their dad. I'd like to invite Jennifer and Sharon to come. Okay, Jennifer first, then Sharon will come.
Thank you. Members of the church, dignitaries, my two moms, my brothers, my sisters, my family, and every single person who took time out of their busy schedules to come and stand here with me and our family today. I'd like to say thank you very, very, very much. We have had nothing but support and support and support from people each and every day. For me, it feels very weird standing to give a tribute to what I call greatness. For every person that has stood here, they have had an entirely different perception, encounter, story, experience to say about this great person. For me, my dad was a friend. He was the coolest dad ever. When we talk about a statesman, we would have dignitaries come home all the time. Often, Museveni would come sleep over at our house in Eldoret. We had the pleasure of having tea with John Garang. Yet in the same light, we would go to the farm with the tractors at 5 o'clock in the morning, eat the ugali and whatever food is being served on the farm, drink the milk there. If it's whatever water it is, you'll drink that water and you'll come back home. We are those children who would get off a plane from the United Kingdom, sleep one night in Eldoret, and then wake up the following morning and drive to Eldoret so that we could go and work for our school fees. My father instilled in us something that's greater than what most parents could ever do. He instilled humility. For me to say goodbye to him is exceptionally difficult. But I draw strength and power from what my nephew told me the other day. I was crying very hard. Comes up to me, goes, "Auntie Jay, why are you crying?" I was like, "Well, Max, you know what's going on." And he told me, "No, Auntie Jay, don't cry. Agu is in heaven." And I looked at myself and I thought to myself, well, if a young man can be this strong, who am I to be weak? All I'm trying to say is this. The other day in Eldoret, when we were, having people over, and this is the last thing that I will say, it's actually an analogy of my father's life. A helicopter landed on the field behind. And of course, there was all this dust that came in the air. And I remembered as we were driving in from town, I saw a man who had really bad shoes, like I think the soles of the shoes were barely there. And he also had dust on his feet. And the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya stood up and spoke about how much my father had helped him, and how well and how great a man he was. And after a few other dignitaries had spoken, they left. And then the man with the shoes with no soles came and stood up and also attested to how much my father had helped him. That was my dad. The man who could sit with 4 presidents, yet he could still go to the center and have a cup of tea with a person who they would call the madman. And I believe that's something that each and every single person should take from this man. That it doesn't matter what status or what stature you are, we are all human beings and deserving to be treated exactly the same. I thank God so much for having given me the opportunity to have grown up with a truly, truly, truly phenomenal father who allowed me to call him Bwana Dawa, allowed me to call him Dad, and most importantly, allowed me and gave me the opportunity to be his best friend. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. Sharon?
Thank you. Bwana asifiwe. Amen. I would like to start with a prayer, so I'm going to ask humbly if every head could be bowed and every eye to be shut. Amen. Father, in the name of Jesus, we come before you today. Lord, our hearts are heavy, but your Spirit is here. We thank you for Dad, or as others know him as Mark. We thank you for the individual he was. We thank you for the mind you created for him, the spirit that you put inside of him. And we praise you for this man. We ask, Lord, that as we continue with the service, oh God, that you will bring comfort to us. And we also pray for Dad in heaven, that he may know how loved he was, and that he can rest easily. We thank you for this opportunity to be here as a congregation, Lord. And we thank you as a family for all the love that you have shown us and the ease that you have made the ease of the process of preparing for this service and those to come. Lord, though the words may not be many, I know that you understand. And I know that you see into the hearts of the hurting. All we can say is thank you. Thank you for bringing him into our lives. And thank you also for taking him away in a peaceful manner. We love you. And we know you will take care of us. In Jesus' mighty name I pray. Amen. The thoughts are many, but the words are few. I was very close to my father. At 21 years old, I am the youngest in our homestead. So unfortunately, I spent the least amount of time with him. He was and will always be the biggest inspiration in my life. Not just because of his many achievements on paper, but also because of who I knew him to be as a father. He was very kind and very, very loving. He was a happy person. And every time I was around him, I was full of joy. In fact, on the 26th of December, we were sitting with my mom and my dad by the fireplace. And I sat with my dad, and he has a habit of throwing tissues at the fireplace. And I told him, my happiest moment in life is when I am with the both of you. I loved spending time with my parents. There was always a lot to learn. Even at a young age, I understood that this man was like no other. He was extraordinary. When he spoke, I would listen keenly. In fact, as of last year, I began recording our conversations on my phone, because when I would ask him about the real things, the things of life, the things I'm yet to discover as I grow up, I knew what he would tell me I would need to remember. So I would take my phone and would sit after dinner, just the both of us, and he would talk. There's one day we spoke for 4 hours, and my dad told me his whole life story, straight from his mouth, in a way in which I had never heard it before. He gave me advice on friendship, on university. He gave me advice on business. He told me to hold my family members close. And he told me that I am loved and he is proud of me. In fact, unfortunately this year, my phone crashed and I lost that conversation. I was in Scotland. It was about 8 months ago. I cried because I used to listen to that phone conversation at least once a week. Though it was recorded over a space of 2 hours, Anytime anything would go wrong, I have an assessment. I feel stuck, I don't know where to start. If I would have a problem with friends, and I know that I can do better, I will listen to that recording. He encouraged me. When I was younger, I used to say, I want to be just like my dad. You can ask my mom and she'll tell you. The infatuation you have as a child with your parents sometimes can leave us. Because I see my sister's young children, they are totally in love with their mother. For some, that feeling goes away. For me, it never has and it never will. I loved him very much. He was very close to my heart. But I want us to all take heart, because he remains alive. He is alive in his children. I see him in my brother Dan. I see him in his kindness and in his humbleness. I see him in my brother Moses. I see his confidence. I see him in my brother Kevin. I see him in his problem-solving abilities. I see him in my sister Jennifer. I see his brilliance. I see him in my sister Sandra. I see her creative mind. He is here. He is alive. He is in us. And he will be in our children and our children's children. Because he was a man like no other. He gave advice. He listened. My father never used to chase me when I was young. And he was in his political time. A guest would come to our house for dinner, for tea, for a meeting. Some may have said, some parents may ask their children to stay in the kitchen. Dad said no. Call the children. Call the children. Bring them to greet our guests. And sometimes we'd have conversations. And for me, that made me a confident person. He was not ashamed. He was proud of us as children. And as we remember him, I want everyone to know that truly he was a kind and extraordinarily special person. We must take heart as a family, as friends, and hold those memories close to us and cherish them. Personally, for me, I had many times pondered on the plans for my future, the day I would graduate and how my father would be there, the day I would get married and how my father would be there. Unfortunately for me, that is no longer a reality, and it's with a heavy, heavy heart that it is so. It was unexpected for us, his passing. But let us remain confident. Let us remain confident. I brought a bottle of water with me on the stage because I would like to express an analogy. When we were in the funeral home and I had a few private moments with my father, I realized something. If you look at this bottle of water here, you will see there's plastic surrounding it. When you say, I'm thirsty, I'm going to buy a bottle of water, you're more concerned with the water than the container that it's put in. Am I right? Yeah. So, in the same way, what was in him is what is going to live forever. He has left behind us his body, but what matters was what was inside of him, and that will live on forever. Plastic decomposes, and the purpose that it was made for, the water that we will consume right now today, was its purpose. So I believe Dad has accomplished his purpose, and I believe that he will live until eternity. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I have a very special message to the family from one, we call him Mark's father, Mzee Elisha Murray. He will not make it to be here with us today, and he will not make it to the funeral because of his health problems. But yesterday he gave me a call and I went and met him. He was in Nairobi. And he gave me a special message to give to the family of Mark to say, Pole, you all know the history that Alicia Murray has with Mark. And he gave me a very interesting story yesterday that when Mark had identified his bride, Mary, they went for an engagement and the family of Mary refused and said, no, this girl of ours, we're not letting her go. And Alicia Murray and Mark were turned away. And he said, Mark, being a go-getter, decided he was going to seek an alternative route. And one time when President Moi was in Kapseret for some function, President Moi called Alicia Murray and told him, can you go to Kobilo? I'm going to meet you there in a few minutes. So Mzee Murray went there, and when he got to Mary's parents' place, there was a lot of cooking and preparations going on. And shortly Mzee Moi arrived, and it was around 3 o'clock. And they said, we have come for the engagement of Mary. For us Nandis, engagement, you go early in the morning. And he said, Mzee Moi said, us Tugans, we go any time in the day. So they had the negotiations, but Mary's family being very strong people, they said, no, we're not letting this girl go. Then Moi told them, listen, let the girl go. She's not going to go far away. And because Mark had nothing at that time, the family of Mary said, where are they going to live? And Mzee Moi said, Mzee Elisha Murray knows. Now Elisha started saying, what is this Mzee Moi is putting me into? And then Mzee Elisha Murray told the family of Mary, look at these birds. And that's why we always say wisdom is with the old. He said, look at these birds. Where do they get their food from? This family, this young man, Mark, will be successful in the future. And true, and that story has come to be true. I remember Mark Cho for very many things. But one thing I remember him was the simple life he led. One time we went to see Honorable William Ruto when he was the Minister for Agriculture. We went with Mark. And Mark had a special black phone in this digital age, we call it Mulika Mwizi. And when we were in Mr. Ruto's office, it rang. And Mark picked the phone, or rather he was turning it off. And then Ruto told him, Mark, your status, this is not the phone you should be carrying, you should have a better phone. And Mark said, no, this is the best phone, battery haishi. But Honorable Ruto then told me we are going to get this Mzee a nice phone. So we went and he sent. And later in the afternoon, we went back to the office and Mark was given a smartphone. So as we were leaving, I told him, now, let me switch the SIM card for you. He told me, no. That story was for William. I am going to stick with my phone. So I asked him, what will happen when, because you meet with William regularly, what will happen? He said, I'm going to carry both phones. So when I'm with William, I'll hold the Mulika Mwizi. But when he leaves, when I'm with William, I'll remove the smartphone. But when he leaves, I will, that was the man Mark was. But on my conversation with him on the 27th of December, we spoke about many things. But one thing that he spoke about was peace in this country. One thing that he really emphasized was the political temperatures were rising and we needed to bring them down. And I remember he told me he wanted to have a one-on-one with the Deputy President, and I told him, you have been invited on the 31st of December to be at the Deputy President's residence for a New Year's crossover party. And he told me, tell him I will be there on time. And I believe he was preparing to go there on the 31st, and unfortunately his time had come. We shall say more, I guess, on Monday. I would like to invite Honorable Keter to take over. Honorable Sudi has excused himself. You know, he's the local member of parliament and he's busy making arrangements for Monday. I'll invite Honorable Keter to carry on with the rest of the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kale. First and foremost, on behalf of myself, my family, and the people of Nandi, I would like to say pole to the family of Mark To, to Mama Sophie, Mama Mary, the children, Jennifer, Daniel, Kevin, Sandra, Sharon, and all the relatives and friends, all the dignitaries, His Excellency, the Governor for Nairobi, Dr. Evans Kidero, former Vice President and former Deputy Prime Minister, Musalia Mudavadi, Cabinet Secretaries, Eugene Wamalwa, Phyllis Kandie, members of Parliament, members of Senate, Sipora Kitony, and Wakili Sang, Member of Parliament Katundu South, Mheshimiwa Moses Kuria, Permanent Secretary Andrew Sunguli, and Daktari Belio Kipsang, Inspector General of National Police Service, Mr. Boynet, all the former permanent secretaries, former members of Parliament, Deputy Governor was in Gishu County, Bwana Chegno, wote ningependa kusema pole. Mark was a very close friend to me and many other leaders from the North Rift. He mentored most of us. I remember I first met Mark in the year 1999 when I was in the university. By then I had started engaging in student politics. Later on, I came to meet Mark in NAC campaign team when we were campaigning for Kibaki in 2002, when I was with the other National Rainbow Coalition Youth League members, and he mentored most of us. I know there are many members of Parliament who yesterday said they will be coming to join us in Eldoret, and because I've been given 2 roles to say pole and again to run the program after my brother Caleb Kositang, I have many things that I really wanted to talk about Mark life, but I know because of time, let me allow others, because I will find another opportunity. Let me give this opportunity to Inspector General of National Police Service, Bwana Boynet. Karibu.
Asante sana mheshimiwa. Kwa familia ya rafiki yangu Mheshimiwa Makto, ndugu zake na dada zake wote na familia yake yote, kwa waombolezaji wote ambao wamekuja hapa ili tuwape pole familia. Bwana asifiwe. Asifiwe tena. Asifiwe tena. Juu vile tumeambiwa hapa awali, tumsifu Mungu wakati wote kwa mema na mazuri. Hata leo tumsifu Mungu kwa ajili ya wakati umetupa na kwa ajili aswa kwa kutupa Mark, Mheshimiwa Makto. Mimi nimekuja kwa niaba yangu na service nzima la National Police Service ili niseme pole, na mimi mwenyewe siwezi kusema nimejua mheshimiwa kwa muda mrefu. Tulikutana naye mwaka uliopita wakati nilipopewa kazi na His Excellency the President ya kuwa Inspector General. Tukawa tunazungumza at least once a week, na kwa wakati wote yeye alipenda kunipa mawaidha ya uongozi. And in every respect, at every conversation that I had with him, the common denominator at all times was a need for peace. Hizi vile viongozi wale wengine walivionena, I stand here to confirm that he indeed stood for peace. He loved peace. Alipenda sana jamii zote katika nchi yetu tuishi kwa amani. Sababu wakati wote alipenda kusema, hakuna mtu yeyote alifanya application na kusema ningependa kuzaliwa hapa na niishi hapa. Na juu vile Mwenyezi Mungu ametupa, alitoweka nchi hii na sehemu zote ambavyo tunaishi, alisisitiza na kusema ni muhimu tuwe na amani. Na kitu kingine tena ile alipenda kusisitiza ni umuhimu wa unyenyekevu, the importance of humility, the importance of those of us in public service to serve watu wetu with humility. Those are the key attributes that underlay whatever conversation or every conversation that I had with him, wakati tulizungumza aidha kwa simu ama hata tulipokutana. Sina mambo mengi ya kusema, ijapokuwa tunakusema pole. And truly vile the daughters have said, we truly had a great man, and let's live his legacy. Asanteni sana na Mungu awabariki.
Thank you so much, Bwana Inspector General. Let me go straight to invite Permanent Secretary Andrew Sunguli, then Daktari Kapseret. Thank you.
The family of Mark, the children, all the distinguished mourners, I'll not take long, but let me just say pole sana to the family, pole sana to all the friends, and pole to the people of Uasin Gishu and Kenya at large for losing such a great man. Maybe just one or two things to say. I knew Mark when I was a young man. And I remember very well where I met him was at the family of Tutu when he came to reconcile Maasai clans at the Mara Safari Club. And I remember very well that peace prevailed from that time to date. And I want to thank the family for supporting Mark to be able to serve all of us, to serve the country and the world in all the assignments that he undertook successfully. Many people in Narok and Kajiado had wanted to come, and I know many of them will come to Eldoret for the burial. But I've spoken to a number of them. I know the family of Timama. I've spoken to them. They say Pole, family of Valentutu. I remember Sylvester was very close to Mark, and maybe it's good for you to stand. The family get to know that you are there from Narok. We all say Pole. And we last met him when we were with P.S. Belio at St. George's Catholic Church when we went to fundraise. That was in the month of March. And we were very excited the way he led the successful Harambee and raised funds to build the church. And I really enjoyed the way he was a very jovial man and a man who could encourage everybody. With those few remarks, the family will say Pole again and Pole everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charles. I think I'll introduce him wrongly as Andrew. That is the brother, Charles Sunguli. Thank you. Daktari Kapseret.
And God is good, and all the time. For the family of Maxo, Mama Mary and Sophie and the children, I know we've been together on this journey of sending Mark and resting Mark for the last few days. days at home. But today, on behalf of my own behalf and that of my family, I would want to say Pole. I've known Mark for quite some time. I can say Mark introduced me to so many people very early in life. I had an opportunity so many years ago to be at the airport with Mark Tor when we were receiving one of the leaders, and he was trying to reconcile the leadership of Mozambique. That's almost 26 years ago. I had an opportunity also those days when I was a student. One other time we also went with him when he was meeting John Karan at the Norfolk Hotel. So he gave me an opportunity very early in life to be able to engage with some of the leaders that were there and leaders that made a difference in the lives of their own countries. So once again, I would want to urge the family of Mark Tor that let's carry on that particular legacy. When a pastor came from this church yesterday to preach to us in the house, Mark Tor's house, he talked about leaving a mark in life. And I think Mark Tor left his name for us. He left the name that we shall all cherish. And that name is Mark, and the mark that he left to us. Once again, I would want to affirm that just a few days before he passed on, when we released the results of the Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education in Mombasa, just after we finished, Mark Tor called me. And I told him, we've just come out of the release, let me call you once I'm in the car. And when I went back to the car, I called him. And he said, congratulations. He told me I would want to talk to your CS. I informed the CS, and as soon as we arrived in Nairobi, Mark Tor called him when we were alighting from the plane. And my CS told him, let me call you as soon as I'm in the car. My CS told me, call Mark Tor, and Mark Tor told him, congratulations. Look for time, and the PS will bring you to my home, and I would want to appreciate your good work. So Mark was one man who appreciated that which is good for this country and for humanity. And we shall continue to pray for you as a family. I would not want to say much. Having had the tribute that the daughters have given, we can only say that was Mark. What the daughters have said, that for sure was Mark. The last time I had an engagement at personal level with Mark was on 5th of November. I had taken 7 of my colleagues to Uasin Gishu, 7 of our principal secretaries, and we went to the farm of Mark Tor on the 5th of November last year. From leaving Mark Tor's place, I took my colleagues and Mark Tor for lunch in my house. Thereafter, we went to church with Mark. After my colleagues left, Mark went back to my house with me, and we were there up to 11 at night, engaging on so many issues. So we've lost a man, I've lost a friend. May God rest his soul in eternal peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Let me take this opportunity to invite Deputy Governor Uasin Gishu on behalf of Uasin Gishu residents. Thank you so much. And on behalf of the Governor, His Excellency Manago.
The family of the late Mark, the widows, the children, the grandchildren, fellow mourners, praise the Lord. Even in times of pain, we remember what Job said, that may his name be praised. I want to say that for the few moments we came to office as a county, Mark was a big encyclopedia for us. Any information you wanted, Mark was available with it. And when we were wondering about the vastness of the county, he was telling us of any country in East Africa and all the features that I could refer to in geography. When I could have read some historical events happening, where he was part of it, he had that fine touch of it. It tells you of a great man he was. He told me, I think just before, I'm much encouraged by the daughter's testimony. I'm touched. And sometimes when you mourn and you get the children have such a spirit, you truly say and share the words of that great lawyer who wrote the song, it is well in my soul. May you remain truthful to the words and counsel of your father. This world will be a better place when we get more of that kind and sharing with those around you. Thank you so much. May the Lord comfort you and keep you strong and live those ideals he had. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Deputy Governor. Let me take this opportunity to invite Honorable Moses Kuria, MP Katundu South. Thank you so much.
God is good all the time. Mine is to give my condolences on behalf of myself, my family, the people of Gatundu, and indeed all members of Parliament from the National Assembly for the passing on of this great legend in this country. Makto was very, very close friend of mine. Indeed, in many ways, he was my mentor. I do remember on Saturday, the day he passed, on the previous day, on Friday, 29 or the 30th, Makto called me in the morning. And you know now, for some people in this country, it's fashionable to say, so and so called me before he died. So I'll not go there. But on that Friday, Makto, I had lost my brother. And I was burying my brother on that day, on Friday. And on the previous night, Makto had called me and told me he's going to come for the burial. But just in case, because you never know what happens, let me send you something to help your family. And indeed, one of his assistants by the name of John Mutai called me and sent me some money by M-Pesa. But still the following day, Makto called me at 7:15 in the morning, and he talked to me for 24 minutes. On the day I was preparing to go to the mortuary to go and give my brother his respect. And he told me that he was waiting for his driver to drive from Nakuru to send to, first of all, to send the driver to Eldoret to pick Mr. Kiprop, who is here with us, who is the former chairman of the county council, so they can drive and come to Gatundu. But the driver was late and he could not get him on phone. So if that driver is here, we still have some unfinished business. Please see me after this. And we talked many things with Mr. Makto. What I want to say is that this man loved this country. This man loved peace. Most important, that this man loved inclusion. And it was paining him to see one person not talking to the other person. Somehow Makto believed that he could actually make everyone talk to everyone. And I remember that day he told me, ambia William, ambao ni rafiki yako, ambia Uhuru. He told me many things. And since they are not here, I will not say what they told me. It's meant for them, and I will make sure that I tell them. But what I can say is that if this country, if we give larger space for Makto's ideas in this country will be much better off. I'm surprised to hear the Deputy Governor say that Makto was an encyclopedia. I had a nickname for Makto every time he called me. I used to call him encyclopedia because he was really a walking encyclopedia, everything. And he could give me stories from when he went to the bush in Angola to pick, the rebel leader, Savimbi, there, tell me about Sudan. Most interesting story is when he would tell me how he helps Mzee Moi to overcome the motion of no confidence that was moved by Moi Kibaki and seconded by James Orengo, I think in the 7th Parliament. And he would tell me how he went and picked Kijana wa Marwa and drove in his vehicle. And Kijana wa Marwa, 9 members of Parliament, is what tipped the balance for Mzee Moi. And every time, as he would tell me that things were really tough for Mzee Moi, and he go to State House, and he tried to talk to Moi about something, and Moi would not listen. Makto would tell Moi, let's take a walk to the garden, and then Moi would know Nikubaya, and he would listen. And of course, Makto's dawa would work and would save the day. Rest in peace, my brother. And for you and all that you have done for this country, we will commit ourselves to ensure that we keep our Kenyans safe and united. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Moses. Let me take this opportunity to invite Mama Zipporah Kitoi, nominated Senator.
Mama Mary, Mama Sophie, the children of my brother Mark, the brothers, and I want to say all protocols observed, and I want to recognize the church, and I want to take this opportunity. I belong to this church, and the chairman has said you are welcome. I want to thank Reverend Mwalwa for accepting to have this great service of a great man at AIC Milimani today. And this is a day that I don't want to be like his brother who said, I don't know what to say. I've been confused since I got the news of Mark. I'm a strong personality normally, but this time, this has really hit me in a way that I could not believe when my sister-in-law called me and said that, have you heard the news? And this was a Saturday at about 5 o'clock on 31st. And I said, what news? I didn't want to hear, and I knew there was something coming. But on 23rd, at Kabarak, and as you have heard, because many things have been said, but I just want to underline that here lies a great man, that even if we talk the whole day, we will not exhaust the goodness and the many things that he has done and touched many, many people's hearts. And therefore, I have known him for very many years. We were together at the 8th Parliament, and even the day he was going to stand down for President Uhuru, he had to come and tell me, my sister. He never called me Mheshimiwa, even one time. He calls me my sister. And I say, why have you agreed? You should have told me. But he said, no, Kenya is bigger than all of us. And he gave his seat just because of our uniting and the love that he had for this country. So I cannot describe him, even if I want to, because it will take me a long time. I say I've known him for over 50 years. We've worked together for President Kenyatta, the first president, the second president. He was doing the peace work, I was doing the work for women. and we usually meet at our usual place at State House or at Kapseret. So there is a lot that I will not be able to tell you. I will only say, as the Deputy Governor of Eldoret, that it's unfortunate that has not been documented. But I have faith that for you children of Mark and Mama Mary and Mama Sophie, that you will take time at least to produce some documentation for this great personality. Mark would pick a phone, speak to President Museveni. Mark will pick a phone to speak to Kabila all over the world. So I keep saying that this is a very unique personality that God created. Unique in the sense that he had many talents that some of us don't have. Because I say it's not the family that has lost Mark, it's not the Nandi people, it's not the Kalenjin, it's not Kenya, it's an international servant who has cut across boundaries. I don't know whether to call him a diplomat, I don't know how to describe him. And every time you would find him happy. He never had security like other politicians. He'd drive, even his driver, maybe very rare occasions, he will use a driver. He will drive himself. Okay, sometimes he will call me, he's on my farm giving instructions in Cherangani, and I'm in Europe or I'm in Nairobi. He will tell me, this worker is not a good one. My sister, let's do this. He will always encourage you. So you really have a strong foundation to nurture as a family, as his children, as my sisters. Let us protect this great man, this name that he has given you. We have nothing. We regret his passing, his going. When I saw him lying this morning, you expect Mark to talk to you, but he's no more and he's at peace. I told Sophie that he's like he's sleeping. He's peaceful. Maybe he's more peaceful than us now. But let us remember the things that he's done. I do not know. When I was not even crying for myself. I cried for President Moi. Because when Salat said, when Mark enters the room, you would see Mzee change. He would be happy even if he was annoyed. I don't know what magic. And we actually truly accepted that he's a Bwana Dawa. Because when Mzee is in a bad mood, we say, where is Mark? But when Mark arrives, Mzee is changed. Automatically, he would even be full of life and try to create jokes and believe them. So this is the man who lies here. I want to say thank you, Mark, for your exemplary life that you led. May you be remembered for these wonderful things that you've done, not only for us, but Kenya, for his family, but for the rest of the world. Rest in eternal peace till we meet again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Karibu, Deputy Speaker. Let me call upon Senator San, Senator from Nandi, on behalf of the other senators, and on behalf of yourself.
Thank you. The family of my friend Mama Mary and Sophie, the children of friend Mark, and all the other leaders. I'm here on my own behalf and on behalf of my family, and on behalf of the people of Nandi, to pass our condolence to our great leader. I want to associate myself with each and every comment made by those who've spoken before us, that indeed Mark was such a wonderful person. I got to know or to interact with Mark at a personal level when I got elected, and throughout the campaign period, if there is one leader who left a mark almost virtually in every village in Nandi County, was Mark Tom. You will go to a church and you will be told the foundation stone was laid by Mark. You will go to a cooperative society, whether coffee dairy, they will tell you that this building was built courtesy of a fundraising spearheaded by Mark. You go to a school and you will be told the administration block was courtesy of Mark. You will go to a bridge and you will be told that this bridge was done by Mark. So virtually this is a leader. By the time I came to meet him in person, I had interacted with the wonderful support that he had given to the community. For those of you who might not know, Mark lived in both counties, whereas his current residence is in Wasiguishu, but he has parcels of land within Nandi in several places. Mark was such a wonderful person. He was a generous person in all the aspects. Generous with his time, generous with his wisdom and knowledge, generous with his resources. Only last year, just tried counting, I met Mark, or we met with him in about 6 fundraisings. And in each of those 6 fundraisings, he was either coming from one or going to another. And that is in a span of only 1 year. And that is interaction with myself. So really, Mark was such a generous person. It's reassuring to hear the testimony of the family members, especially the 2 daughters who've shared with us. And whereas we mourn, I see the jovial, the strong, the committed life of Mark in the children. And I am sure, since he guided all of us, those of us in politics, shared a lot, encouraged us, I am sure he did the same within the family, much more within the family. And we are sure that the family will remain strong, will live to the ideals of Mark. Mark was a friend to everybody. I remember early last year when I lost my grandfather, and Mark came. One of the strong messages that Mark kept on sharing with everybody in the whole of last year was the message on peace. And he shared his experience in Zambia, shared his experience in Sudan. One of those numerous experiences he shared about Sudan was when he encouraged mourners in my grandfather's funeral that let us protect peace at all costs. And he said that when he was in South Sudan, trying to deal with the process, people, because of lack of peace, people had destroyed everything that they had worked to build in many years. This is a strong message to this country, that as a country, we have struggled and paid the cost of building our country to this level. Let us ensure that we don't bring down our country just because of careless talk, just because of inconsiderate politicians who, in one way or another, could drive this country in the wrong direction because of their careless utterances. Mark was a politician, but he spoke to us. And if there is a legacy And if there is something that we have to remember him for, and if there is honor that we can give Mark, then it is to keep this country together and ensure that we go through the elections this year in a peaceful manner that Mark would have wanted to see. The very last point of my meeting with Mark was with myself and Murkomen when the President and the Deputy were on a tour of Wasigishu and Nandi. And I remember when we did the last meeting at Keses, at around 7, Mark got into my car, and I was there with Murkomen, and we drove together with the President in the convoy. And since we were tired, we told Mark, now, where do we drop you? We can, drop you at home. Then Mark told us, I want to teach you something in politics. You cannot leave the President's convoy before you get to State House and ensure that the boss is okay. So that was one of the, some of the lessons in politics that, you must ensure that your boss is okay. So he forced us to drive all the way to State House, had a dinner with the President there, and we left State House very late in the night. And he told us, in politics, you must ensure that your boss is okay. That was, the very last point. And of course, within the period of the drive from Keses to State House, he had made us to laugh all through because of his hilarious jokes and humor. So really, we have lost a leader, but what I know is that he touched many lives. If there is something that we need to learn from him, let us touch the many lives. I bring the condolences of the many friends and the colleagues in the Senate, Amos Wako, Mutula Kilonzo, Kipchumba Murkomen, and I am sure most of us will find opportunity to be with the family, relatives, and the people who are in issue on Sunday and on Monday to give a befitting send-off to our friend. Rest in peace, Mark, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Let me invite the Deputy Speaker, Joyce Laboso, Member of Parliament, Sotik. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. The members of Mark To's family, all protocol observed. Mine is really to bring condolence on my own behalf of the National Assembly, on behalf of the people of Bomet and the people of Sotik, the people I represent, and where Mark was a great friend. As everybody has said, it is just to reiterate and to confirm that Mark To was a great man and a great friend to all. The way you see him in that picture, it is a good memory because that is all he ever did. He was smiling all the time. I can also claim, like others have done, that I was shocked one morning to find Mark To has also called me. And when I found 2 missed calls and I called him back. And he told me, Mama, tunakusikia. We are hearing you and the movements you are having there in Bomet. I want to come. I want to come to Bomet. And I actually did tell him, I'm going to invite you, and because I know you are a peaceful person. He says, we don't like some of the things that are happening there. I said, please come and preach the peace that you have been preaching. So, family members, we are with you. We are making an effort to be there with you to give him the final send-off. Mark To was a great friend of the Kipsigis. He was a great friend of our family, especially the Kanu family, where my mother was a very active member with Auntie Zipporah. So we love you, and we have come to say, please, the peace that you have been preaching, we as leaders who are here now, we will endeavor to do the much that we can to ensure that this country is peaceful, particularly in this election year. I thank you. Rest in peace.
Thank you so much for your time. Let me invite the Cabinet Secretary, Phyllis Kandiye, then former Vice President, Musalem Ndobere.
the family of Makto, all protocols observed. We are here today to mourn a statesman, a great Kenyan, a friend to everybody. And I want to encourage the family that you had a great dad, a great grandfather, a great friend of so many Kenyans across this country. I recall I met Makto 2 years ago, and I was with CS Felix Koske. At that time he was the agriculture CS. And he said, between the two of you, at that time I was taking care of the docket of trade, you have to do something for us to ensure that we use Eldoret Airport to lift exports to the Middle East. He said, tell me what I can do. My farm is right next to the airport. What is it that we can do as people of Eldoret to support the government to ensure that we do that? I recall that very clearly. And so therefore, your father, your husband, was somebody who wanted people to be better today, to be better tomorrow than today. He's somebody who encouraged people. He's somebody who really, when he met me, and I cannot say that I knew him very closely, but he was very interested in what I would say. He was a very authentic person. He didn't pretend to be anybody else. And therefore, he was a great person. And we all learned, we are all the better by meeting him, even if you met him for an hour. You become a better person because he will clearly engage you and wants to know who you are and wants to add value to you. And we've had that from the children here today. I know Sharon goes to school with, they went to school with Simon, my son Simon. And therefore I had him last week to say, telling me that Sharon has lost his father. And therefore we're here to mourn with you. But again, as the children have said, we're here to celebrate him. He left a good legacy, something that we can all say, yes, he lived his life and he lived it well. So with those few remarks, we want to encourage you, continue to implement his legacy, and I'm sure from what we've seen today that we will see a lot of him in the children. We're encouraged, and we want to encourage you even further. Rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As I finalize, because I'll give the program to Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa, I really want to take this opportunity on behalf of myself, my constituents, and the Member of Parliament Kapseret, Honorable Sudi, who is busy with other programs that are geared towards a good send-off for our brother. I want to say thank you so much for every support, the overwhelming support that the family and the friends have been getting all this time. Thank you so much for your prayers. I know we didn't find an opportunity to give to everyone. There are many people who wanted to really eulogize on Mark's life, but there will be another opportunity on Sunday and Monday before the burial. So thank you so much. Let me take this opportunity to invite Cabinet Secretary Rafiki yangu Eugene Wamalwa. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, my brother Alfred Keter. I requested him that he should allow me to invite my two big brothers here, Honorable Musalia and Dr. Evans Kidero, because as you know, Musalia is my senior brother, having been vice president, and Kidero is our governor here in Nairobi, and I will be inviting them to close this session for us. But on my own behalf, on behalf of the entire Wamalwa family, may I bring my condolences to Mama Mary and Mama Sophie and the entire Mark Too family and the Kandia family for the loss of a great friend to all of us, for the loss of your father, your husband, and a pillar of your family. I speak as a family friend, because Mark Too was a friend of my family, particularly my late brother Mike. They were very, very close, right from the 80s through the 90s. Though they belonged to two different sides of the political divide, as you have been told, Mark was very close to the second president, Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, and my late brother was the leader of the opposition. But Mark, who was called Bonadawa, if he was a doctor, I think he would have belonged to those doctors who call themselves Medicinos Sans Frontiers, doctors without borders, because he had no borders, political or otherwise. He had no boundaries. Indeed, he was like water, he was fluid, and water respects no boundaries, whether they are county or country boundaries, and that is how Mark was. He had friends across the political divide, and indeed for my late brother, as Moses Kuria has said, he did not have a very good relationship with the former president. But whenever President Moi wanted to reach my late brother, this man was the man to do the job. And they would come to Kitale, we would go to Eldoret, we have been to Mark's house here in Nairobi, and we are very, very pleased to have known him all these years, and for the support and the generosity that he had. As a family, we are beneficiaries of that. And though we say Paul to you, we also have lost a close friend and ally. Indeed, a lot of good things have been said about Mark. And we had the English poet, Henry Longfellow, who once said that lives of great men teach us that we can make our lives sublime, and departing, leave behind footprints on the sands of time. Very few people can leave footprints on the sands of time. Very few people can leave marks in the way that Mark Too did. When you go to Mozambique, you go to Angola, to Uganda, to Sudan, you'll find that Mark left a mark of peace in all these countries. And though we're mourning today as a country, as a nation, we know that there are other countries also who are mourning with us, because they knew that in Kenya they had a friend called Mark Too, and when their countries had problems, he came to their aid to ensure that peace prevailed, not just in our country, but in the region, on the continent, and internationally. Mark leaves us today when we have just entered an election year. Indeed, if we had a choice, we would have appealed that God should have allowed him to stay around until we go through this election. But he had been taken on the eve of an election year. Indeed, we want to urge all leaders, and we see quite a number of the political leaders here and the political class, that if there's a tribute that we can pay to Mark Too, if there's a tribute that we can pay to this peacemaker, then that tribute should be peace. To ensure we have a peaceful general election this year. This is the greatest tribute we can pay to Mark Too as he leaves us today, and we want to urge that as we move forward towards this general election, we know decisions have been made by both houses of parliament. The Senate made its decision yesterday. There are decisions that have pleased some. There are decisions that have displeased some. There are those who would want to challenge those decisions beyond our two houses of parliament. There are those who would want to go to court to challenge the decisions. There are those who would want to challenge the decisions on the streets. But this is where Mark should have been. His wisdom would have helped this country if he stayed on just a little longer. Because Mark would go to any house. He would go to Raila's house. He would go to Uhuru's house. He would go to Ruto's house or Kalonzo's house or Mudavadi's house. and he would speak to them directly about this country and why we need peace this election. Too bad we have lost him, but we pray that for the leaders who are here to honor this man, I think let us do what will be in the interest of Kenya. Not so much what's in the interest of Jubilee or CORD, but what is in the interest of Kenya. And for an election year, what will be in the interest of Kenya is peace. And this is what this peacemaker was all about. And the scriptures say, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. We honor you, my brother. We know for the family, though you mourn today, we want to say to you that Mark has only gone ahead of us to prepare a place for all of us. And where he has gone, there are friends of his there, like Ruben Chesire, like Michael Omalwa. I'm sure they're going to receive him today, and we will be joining them in due time. So even as we mourn, let us be aware of that. And we pray that may the awesome grace of God give you the strength to bear your loss. Thank you very much. May I now invite Dr. Evans Kidero to come and give his condolences.
To the family, Mary, Sophie, children, the grandchildren, and the greater and the bigger family of Mark, we bring our condolences. But also we thank God that we can see you strong. The tributes that you've given, more particularly, I was reading Sophie's tribute, which says, families at peace because you know that Mark is at peace where he is. And there's absolutely no doubt that Mark is in a good place. Everybody who's talked has said how he touched their lives, how he made a difference to their lives. The first time I came, I got to know Mark was back in 2007 when I was the managing director of Mumias. And like Rugut did say, I had a phone call one morning from Mark and asked me, Evans, where are you? I told him I was in Mumias. And he said, I want to come and see you. Can I come now? I asked him where he was. He said he was in Eldoret. And in exactly 2 hours, Mark was in Mumias. We had a long discussion, drawing on his experience in the sugar industry. And his main concern was the future of the industry, because he said, I can see you're doing quite a lot of expansion. You're doing good things for the factory and for the industry, but without an assured source of raw material, what you're doing might come to naught in future. So he advised me to do things in the short term. He told me, let's increase area under cane by reducing the number of cows that graze. I will help you to come up with a strategy and a project of ensuring that farmers have less cows, so that farmers have less cows by having grade cows like they have in Muranga, so that we can have a lot more land released for cane farming. Secondly, he said, you need to engage the members of parliament and the policy makers about the national land policy or policy, the agriculture policy in the country, so that there can be a lot more land that can be made available for the growing of cash crops. Later on, when I became governor for Nairobi, he came to see me in my office and he told me that I've brought you manyasi. Manyasi in Swahili is dawa. And he told me there are two things that if you do in Nairobi, your life will be peaceful. Make sure that the cartels that have been giving people problems on land are properly managed. And two, the issue of garbage. People might have not, people maybe probably didn't know, but Mark had an interest and an enterprise that managed garbage in the city of Nairobi. We came up with a policy on how we were going to manage garbage, but garbage is a big business and is a multi-million-dollar business in Nairobi. So our policy could not be implemented because the private garbage collectors went to court. But Mark told me that I will be on your side. I will not join the people who are taking the county government to court. I lastly saw Mark about 4 months ago. I was supposed to go and have tea because he's my neighbor where he lives in Nairobi with Sophie, but I was not able to. So he brought me a big basket of tea and said, since you did not come to have tea, I'm bringing this tea that you're supposed to have so that you can go and have it with your family. But it didn't stop at that. We did discuss many things. But what I remember most, and this big concern, was politicians' use of their tongues. Because he said the tongue is probably one of the smallest organs in the body, but it's an organ that can build, and it's an organ that can destroy. And unfortunately, a lot of people in the political class, instead of using their tongues to build cohesion, to build friendship, to build cooperation, to build growth, to bring peace, what they say does otherwise. And he was saying, even as we go into these coming elections, it would be important that politicians preach peace, they work together, because we are one people and we have only one country. And even as we escort Mark today, let's just remember what the psalmist says in Psalm 90, verse 12, and Psalm 39, verse 4, that our days in this world are numbered, and the psalmist says, let the Lord help us to count the number of the days in our lives so that we can live a life of wisdom. To the family, I know that Mark's absence will be felt because of where he sat, the advice he gave. Sharon gave a very moving presentation on their relationship. I know I was at the house the other day, and Keegan, the grandson, I think is somewhere there, was telling me, a very young boy, how his dad, how his grandfather allowed him to drive the tractors, to drive his car, something which normally as parents, as grandparents, we don't do. So it's that close relationship you had, it will be dearly missed. But do remember that our Lord God is the protector, is the guardian of the widows, and is the guardian of the orphans. And may our Lord rest Mark's soul in eternal peace. And let me invite Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, the former Vice President, to come and give his condolences.
The family of the late Mark Too, distinguished friends and relatives, let me at the very outset join the previous speakers in conveying my heartfelt condolences, and also the condolences from my wife Tessie and our entire family. I first met Mark in 1989. I was 29 years old then, and in February my father passed away, and one of the people who came to condole was Mark Too. And that encounter is the encounter that eventually put me into politics. We became very close. We did a lot of things together. We fundraised together. We traveled together. And I can tell you, this was a very good man. Mark was also a troubleshooter. He didn't fear. Sometimes he would rouse. But also, because we were then dealing with a president who was also very keen to monitor what was going on, there are times Mark would come and tell you, mambo yako ni magumu, lakini usijali, tutapoesha. And I can tell you, this man saved the political careers of very many people. Of course, along the way, he also dealt with some others. The truth must be spoken. But I can tell you, ministers who had had a difficult moment, or politicians, and they were trying to figure out how to make good with President Moi, you would actually find a minister driving to Mark's home or calling him to say, wewe ende uko kwanza, unizungumuzie, alafu niambie kama sasa mambo ni mazuri ndio nipige simu nikuje huko. This is Mark. And in the last election, Mark campaigned with me. And we spent a lot of time together here and even visiting neighboring countries together during that period. So, as I stand here, I just want to say that the biggest loss is, of course, to the family. But if there's some consolation, take heart in knowing that Mark was a friend to many, and very many people liked him and respected him. So we can only say, may his soul rest in eternal peace, and may you, as a family, remain united, consult, talk to each other, because your unity is what will make your father rest in peace. That is the most important thing. Since he was somebody who would negotiate and talk and listen, spend your time talking, listening to each other, understanding each other, so that we will remember him and remember you as a family, as people who upheld the legacy of Mark Twain. Asanteni sana, and God bless you all.
Okay, we'll invite the choir to give us one song. As the church takes over, we'll hand over the program for the church to the church. I just want to make a small announcement that after the church service, we shall have a vote of thanks from Mrs. Mary Tor, and then we shall all remain standing as the body leaves. Then we shall have viewing of the body outside there. The body will then be taken back to Lee to await departure on Sunday morning at 7:30 from Wilson Airport. We'll fly to Eldoret Airstrip, where from there we shall convoy to Honorable Mark's farm for service by 11 a.m. And I want to commend the family. Today you were super on keeping time. You are lucky already leaving Mark's legacy.